Randy asked me to introduce the Stockton family, where they reside, where I work, Redlands Country Club. I've gotten to know this family through the years, and they are just very genuine with their time. They love to go up to the range and teach, and just surprise people up there. A lot of people know who they are, some don't. But it's been just an honor to be at a club there where they reside, and just want to. Just want to welcome everyone today. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome all the PGA professionals and associates in this special session at the PGA Coaching and Teaching Summit. This event is all about evaluating how we coach, how we connect with our students, and how we continue to grow as professionals. And when it comes to coaching the short game, arguably the most vital part of scoring, there's no team more respected, more experienced, and more impactful than the one we're honored to learn from today. Please join me in welcoming Dave Stockton along with his side with his sons Dave Stockton Jr. and Ron Stockton, the renowned team behind Stockton Golf.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Just a background. My dad was a really good player, but in the 30s there wasn't much tour to go to. And I didn't realize how lucky I was until 2010. My dad died in '83, and what happened in 2010, I was writing the first book, serious book with Matt Rudy about putting from Golf Digest. And he said to me, "Do you have any idea, who taught your dad?" And I said, "I have no clue." Because when I grew up, I grew up at Arrowhead Country Club, and they mowed our backyard. I mean, we were right on the golf course. But what does a kid do? You don't play golf because that's a sissy sport, something like tiddlywinks or something. And basically, I played everything until I broke my back when I was 15, except golf. But at 15, now the only way I can get a scholarship with any kind of talent would be to play golf. So my dad just immersed me since I was finally interested in listening, and never let me read golf magazines. No television back in those days, basically. And I never read Hogan's book, Pennick's book, never read any of them. Second tournament I ever played at the Lafayette Classic in Louisiana, I saw Lionel Hebert. I thought he was a janitor. Just happened to be a PGA champion. I didn't know. So I go out on tour, and I think my stroke is, the ball went in the hole most of the time, so I figure there's nothing wrong with it. But it's amazing how over the years that changed. And the stuff that I learned was taught to my dad in the mid-30s, taught by a man named Alex Morrison. Alex Morrison taught Henry Picard. All he did was win the Masters in 37 and the PGA in 38. Some luck with a really good story by the name of Jack Nicklaus, and that's Jack Grout. But I didn't know this. So when Matt Rudy tells me 2010, I know who taught your dad. I said, "Who did?" He said, "Alex Morrison." So he said, "I'm going to get you a book." Well, it'll be the first golf book I ever had. But it was called Better Golf Without Practice. 70 years after it was written, in 1940, I get this book thanks to Matt Rudy, 8 by 12, some pictures, better golf without practice, with a guy sitting in a chair, 3 clouds of thought above his head. It's 142 pages long, 120 pages of the long game. 70 years after the fact, probably 5% vital. I mean, I'm not of the TrackMan era. You all know how to teach it. You do all this stuff, and my sons will cover that with you. But basically, it was interesting to me when I got the last 22 pages on putting and chipping. Oh my God, that's why my dad taught me to keep the putter in motion. That's why he explained about the type of reading of the greens that you have to do. Okay, all these different things. Keep the putter low. Left hand, direction hand for a right-handed player, which worked good for all our students except for Tiger, who managed to get by thinking the right hand is the direction hand. And there's a lot of you that do. there's no right way to teach you putting, but all of a sudden I got an input. How lucky I was 70 years prior that this book was written, because the short game part of it was still over 90% viable. People still actually think that the full swing is easier than making this motion. I cannot believe it, but it's served me well my entire career. So how many, I need 2 volunteers, okay, that have not read my book and have not had a lesson from me. Okay, ma'am, I'll have you come up in the black. You come up after her, okay? Now, this is what we do with every clinic that I give. Are you right-handed? Perfect. Now, how many of you start a lesson, and what I'll do to her, if I was giving you a lesson right now, I would ask you to sign me your signature. And it's going to take you 4 or 5 seconds, but you'll get it. Now, right below it, I want you to look at your own signature, and I want you to duplicate it. But I want you to take almost 20 seconds to do it. Do you know what it looks like? What does it look like? It won't look right, will it? But we do something really weird in putting. I'll get to it. Okay, so now to explain, that's the first word we don't want to use when we get into putting is the word try. You try, you're really screwed, I promise you. Okay? It's got to be feel. The second word I don't want to use in the clinic is to tell you to hit this ball, because I don't want to hit it. I want to hit my driver, but I want to roll this. The putting of this is equivalent of you putting a nail on a wall and hitting it with a hammer, or taking a putting stroke, which would be a paintbrush, and you don't want to splatter paint everywhere, and you just make a stripe. But okay, for now, right now, I would like to have you putt this for me, but I want to see what your routine is. For every professional start here, when we start any kind of lesson, we want to see the routine. You can walk anywhere you want to. Oh, there's no set way to do it. Okay, thank you. Good putt, good speed. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for volunteering. All right, come on. So you know you're not supposed to sign your own signature. Second time, okay? I want you to step behind. You line it up any way you want to, but I want to see your routine. This is to win your championship, PGA Championship, Southern California. You what? I thought you said. Good putt. Good speed. Thank you. All right, that was good. That was great. Well, one thing you just saw right here, what's more important, to have the right line or the right speed? Good. Believe that. Get used to doing it. Now I'm going to show you what I will do for my routine, the way I was taught. This ball, depending on how much the wind blows that way, it's going to break to the left, okay? So basically, I'm going to come halfway, and if I only had one place to look, it would be here. I wouldn't just be walking past this, because what I'm doing in my mind, I'm dividing this putt into thirds, okay? I don't care about the first third because the ball's going the fastest, but I highly care about the last third because I was taught with 3 tees. Okay, now when they come around, when you pace back, were you pacing how far you had? How do you differentiate between a downhill or an uphill putt? Because if it's 10 paces or 8 paces or whatever you got, right? Okay, but when you're trying to teach somebody, most people they have no clue. All they think is this hole, they got to get it in. And the people that you see, and you're trying to teach them, first of all, they don't like this club because this is not golf. I'll agree with Hogan. This probably wouldn't be part of it because it's not like the rest of the game. Okay, different things. You do different things in this part of the game. So when I get back here, what I'm looking at, for starters now, how many of you use your line on the golf ball? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you take practice strokes? Perfect. All right. I'm gonna put 2 tees in the ground here, and then we're gonna end the thing that I'm talking about there. As I get into this, when I'm standing here, I'm picturing where this ball at a certain speed, and the first tee I'll put in the ground will be about 16 or 17 inches behind it. A little close, but I'm not going to leave it short because it won't go in, but I'm not putting it past this tee. So every putt I'm rolling, I'm conscious of the speed before the line because the line will be dictated by the speed that I'm eventually going to putt it. Now, most of the people you teach, and you got to be aware of this, they think this is the center of the hole. Right there, dead center. You can shoot a bow and arrow, a rifle, whatever. In reality, if this broke the width of the hole, it doesn't. It breaks about 2 inches if the wind lets it. But this is the center of the hole. There's a hell of a difference between that inch. As you set up and you use your line on the ball, it shouldn't be at the middle of the hole. It's got to be on the line the ball has to travel on. And that's why I'm not a real fan of that, about having a line on a ball. And what I'm trying to do, and when I get back here, again, if you've read the book, and a lot of you I've given lessons to and stuff, I'm going to pick a spot to roll the ball over. And I'm going to put a 3rd tee in the ground. How many people would think it would be in this quadrant here? How many think the middle, apex of the break, somewhere out here? Any of you? Okay. 3rd tee goes right here. 1 inch. My world is full of 1-inch putts, and I am really good 1 inch. People ask you, how far can you make it? Well, if it's on the green, I expect I can make it. Okay, but my last look, when I come back, I'm not even seeing the golf ball. My dad, I can remember I was 7 or 8 years old, before I even got serious about it, he said he wanted me to give him 1 inch of not having any reaction by the putter touching the ball. In other words, you don't want to go like this and recoil it because the thing is you're never going to be able to control what it does. So everything is about this 1 inch. Now, would I ask you, how many of you take practice strokes? And I'm not going to ask you why, because I know why you do it. You're getting feel. So how many of you shoot pool? A lot of you shot pool, I'm assuming. Do you set up 4 inches left of the cue ball and then practice this stroke that's so valuable? I don't think so. Okay? You just put the cue stick behind it. But what's the difference between a putter and a cue stick? Because the putter, when you come into it, you put this sucker down and you're looking finally at the hole and getting yourself set and everything. By the time you do this club hadn't moved for 8 or 10 seconds or more. Okay? What do you do when you shoot pool? Sucker doesn't stay here still. It's going back and forth. So consequently, you just started smooth. Totally different, but that's the same smooth stroke that we want with this. Now I'm going to finish what I do here, and when I walk back, I picture what I want the ball to do. In the younger days when I could manage to get down and up again, I'd be about 4 steps behind the ball. And I do an interesting thing. Most right-handers would carry this up in their right hand. Both the lady and the gentleman that came up here, both had their left hand on their side, looked like McElroy actually, set it with their right hand, and eventually the left hand came on. Okay, I was taught that my left hand was my direction hand. Consequently, since I don't take practice strokes, my practice strokes are with my free right hand, keeping my eye on the target and coming right down my line. Because if you take practice, and if you want to take a practice stroke, do it back here. That was Annika's key. We did an outing at Olympic Club. She asked me, she said she'd been putting terrible. Her idea terrible. She'd won twice in 18 months. So she went out on one side, I went on the other with our teams, and she came in, because I told her, don't take a practice stroke. She putted horrible. So we worked 2 days in Palm Springs. Finally, I said to her, because she's mechanical to a certain extent, I said, okay, take your practice strokes back here. She won 18 times the next 18 months. Slight improvement. And that's when you're teaching people, that's what you're trying to figure out, how to make them comfortable. Not the latest. I heard Bill discussing some of the putting. When I played, anybody had a left hand low, you knew there was issues. I am a huge fan of the claw now, because that hand can't flip. And it's different things, small things, and both Ronnie and David will get into it. But I'm going to start my walk-in, put it in my left hand. Halfway there, I see the whole last half of the putt, nothing here. I come into it, set my right foot without even thinking about where it's going to be. Look out at the hole now, put my putter down, and then set my feet. Come back over it. At this point, I could close my eyes. I'll just look out there and I'll go on ahead and stroke it. It ain't going to make any difference. Okay? But too many of you.
We've been watching that our whole lives, Dad.
That's why they put a hole there. I should be, if I was smart, I'd stop and not hit a single one. Okay? But the point of the whole thing is that when you come in and you're going to take a practice stroke and you don't do it back there and you do it here, you had to come around here. You've already lost your line. But you know damn well where this ball is. So you sit here and you take your strokes. Then you get walking into it, probably too square, so your miss is going to be to the right. And you look out. And right now, I mean, by looking out there, I mean, I'd have to start all over and come right in, set here. I mean, I won't even come back. Whoops, pushed it. This time of year now, I can blame anything I'm about to do because this is hunting season. This is not golf season. Okay? So, what?
The last part is that with the tee in front of this, when I put the putter, and I've never taught anybody to put the putter ahead, but that was just the way I did it because my dad told me I had to keep the putter moving. So consequently, I'm here, come over it, look one last time, and now I'm looking right at that tee and roll it right over it. Because every miss you saw McIlroy managed to lose the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. And basically, I mean, his putter almost missed the ball on 16 and 18, and I almost threw up at that point. But, so did he. Yeah, so did he. Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
So can you talk again why eye the ball and not like next to it?
Yeah, because I'm not looking where I'm going. What do you come into if you're throwing a dart and the dartboard's there, you got to come in this way with the dartboard there and then realign? Hell no, you're going to be right behind it, looking right where you're going, and you're going to step into it with that focus on it. But people get mechanical.
Yeah, that's the big thing. You want to take away this. I did it for years. David was much more an athletic player than I was. My mind, like the whole thing, so I've always carried things. My parents were always really key, so I put it back together. But when it came to hunting stroke, I spent 20 years studying the mechanics. Thinking how it was going to be, if you're thinking it was going to make his be. Possibly, then be very consistent. What it comes down to, the magic of what we teach, what we center, is that realize after budding and in athletic, and kind of are forced to do that. What they do also is you can practice mechanics all day long, but ultimately, if they're going to be able to use that underdog person, it's got to turn into an athletic hat. Hunting, it's really difficult to feel like something so simple can be athletic. And back it all and binds us to the micro it. And the realization is what I discovered was, I asked plenty of players this early when I started coaching on tour was when you think you were actually in the act of putting. And if they get that answer wrong, then we know that's where it's bad place to start. Now, obviously, a high handicapper, there's got to be mechanics that need to be worked. But there's trained working on mechanics, actually using the process you're going to use to play in. The magic behind my dad's success with putting is once he's walking it, he's not thinking about any computer to shut down. Once you're committed to where your start line is, you walk in on that start line, get set, and go on. Gail, what are your thoughts on that?
I was taking a nap there when you were talking.
Well, you've heard it all.
No. Yeah, it's the thing that you see. It doesn't matter what level. If people feel pressure on the greens, right, and they think more on the greens, this is the easiest part of the game, but it gets the one part that really it breaks down under pressure. Well, why is that? How many of you practice your routine when you're on the putting green before you go out and play? Or you just take a couple balls and you're rolling and getting the speed. If you're going through your routine, that's a big key. Because if you're practicing your routine here, it's not going to break down on the course. Much less chance of it. When I caddied for him for 7 summers growing up as a kid, and he didn't spend a lot of time on the putting green because he didn't need to. And he said, you don't need to waste your time out here if you go through your routine and you make your practice count. And I saw that firsthand from when I played on tour. I spent 15, 20 minutes on a green and that was it. But I'd go through my routine and I was done after that. And I'd see players out there, the guys that weren't good putters or weren't consistent, they would come out and putt for an hour and a half. Inevitably, the first 15, 20 minutes is the best part of the practice session. And the rest of it, you lose your focus, whatever it may be. It's not as good as it was when you first started. When he mentioned how many of you use a line on the ball, take practice strokes, how often when you get over the ball and you get lined up to that line and you look out and now you're not comfortable, that line's not right. Does that happen? I've had one guy say 100% of the time, but he's not a good putter. That's Woody Austin. You probably know Woody. He's a really good ball striker. But I said, how often are you uncomfortable over the ball? He said 100% of the time, which blew my mind because I've never been uncomfortable over a putt in my life. And here he is. He's just a really good ball striker, so he could make it work most of the time. I had Justin Rose was 75% of the time. These are people with lines on the ball and they line up and the line's not right. How often do you see someone on TV and they've lined it up and then they go through their whole thing and then they get over, they take practice strokes, put the putter down, set up, then they back off and they readjust the line. And I know my dad's line is I'd already have made the putt and I'm on the next hole getting ready to hit my shot.
And it's simply from what Ronnie said, if you let your eyes set your feet, your eyes are your feel. And you're not setting your feet, why look here when it doesn't matter? What really matters is out there and visualizing where that ball's going in the hole. And if you enjoy the look, I like to say, enjoy the look to the hole. Your mind is quieter looking out there than it'll ever be looking down here at the ball, thinking about, oh, okay, I've got to do this and do that. You're much quieter looking out there. One thing that I don't think it was said earlier, grip pressure. Most people will be the same, 50-50 or whatever, and I had that with Patrick Reed, worked with him for a little while, and we were actually at Bethpage Black, and he was playing the FedEx event. And I said, what's your grip pressure? I said, what's your miss? I'll ask someone what their miss is. And he said, my miss is I'll miss it on the low side or I'll leave it short, and it really pisses me off. He added another word in there I won't say. And I said, okay, roll a few. And he rolls a few, and I can see the putter stopping. And I said, okay, roll a few with just your left hand. And he rolled it, and the putter didn't stop. It went through a little further. And I said, okay, get over this ball. He got over the ball. I said, what's your grip pressure? He looked at me like it was the dumbest question he'd ever heard. 50-50. I said, terrific. Give me 80% in the left and 20 in the right. Because as soon as he put it firm in the left, now the left hand had the control. The right hand is your feel. Would you believe you'd have more feel in your right hand if you hold it lighter? I think so. I mean, you wouldn't hold a dart tight or the pool cue tight. So the lighter you hold it in your right hand, if you're a right-handed player, the more feel you're actually going to have. And the better chance for the left hand now can just go through and brush the ball down the line. He won that week by 2 shots, I think. But his speed all of a sudden got better because the putter wasn't stopping at impact. Because the right hand doesn't want to go through, it wants to stop. So, that makes sense? Yeah, it'd be the same. The one guy on tour that really has a good stroke with the cross-handed is Jordan. Because when you see him do his, he's got that little forward press, and then he holds the angle. It's not flipped back at him. You see people that go through cross-handed and flip it. There's your direction hand pointing up and to the left. Who knows if the face is square at impact? So, I mean, obviously, loft is key. We like a minimum of 4 degree loft on our putter. So you can set the angle a little forward press. That helps give the left hand more control. People set with their hands neutral back. That's just inviting the right hand to go and flip it. And I mean, to us, the low chip and the putt are the same thing. You're hitting a low chip. You're not going through like this. You're going through and finishing right there. Make sense?
The stroke, similar to a paintbrush, if we're just trying to keep it simple, it is just like holding a giant paintbrush. I mean, as long as we keep the handle ahead of the brush, the face and what the face does through impact is really stable, which is what we're after. That's going to give you your consistency. But you know, we're talking about how do we get somebody who's not comfortable, because they're coming to you because they're not comfortable. They need help. And again, one of the things we have fun with our clients is starting from about 4 or 5 feet on a straight putt. You may have already pre-snapped your chalk line, but having them putt looking at the hole. Now, at first, there's a lot of thought about trying to control what the putter does, and that goes back to what David was talking about with grip pressure, because the only reason you'd be gripping something tight is because in your mind, you're sitting there thinking, I have to control this thing. I have to make sure this thing does what I want it to do. And it ends up hurting you more. The tighter you're gripping it, the less it wants to listen, because then now you're not making that paintbrush stroke. You've turned putting into an event. But if we get them from 4 or 5 feet and have them just look at the hole, making putts, going in, the smile comes on their face, because now David talked about when you it's shock, and well, they get past that after a while. It starts to feel good. But at the same time, when you're setting the line on your ball, that is your left brain. That's the side of our brain we use to read the putt, doing all this survey, whatever your 5 things you think you need to figure out with your putting stroke. That's all left brain material. My dad, my brother, and later in life myself learned that you have to be putting with your right brain, which is completely athletic and feel oriented. So when you're looking at the hole, you're forcing right brain to do all the work. And at first it feels so awkward. And then I say, really, you ever thrown a dart? And it's like, well, yeah, of course. Well, you don't sit there and stare at the dart the whole time, but yet we get conditioned that for some reason we think something's going to happen to that ball if I don't keep my eyes glued to it. But just like Tiger, he never wasted a look to the hole. He let that feel come to him. So if you teach somebody what it feels like to actually putt with their right brain, realizing that, and it's actually been kind of fun to see that proven in a lab when you watch somebody set up to a ball, look at the hole, and watch the face actually within 3 putts starts to square itself to wherever the person looks, that's where the face goes. Now, instead of trying to control what this does, they've actually connected with it. Much like if I could take this ball and just toss it to you, I don't need to line up my hand to toss you a ball, because my hand, I feel connected. There's a connection there. And that relationship is what we try to teach our clients. And once that's there, putting becomes a lot more fun.
Yeah, one of the major points again, like, I don't know if you understand when I said I putt at the 1 inch, right? Literally, my eyes never, when I come back from the hole and I'm coming back, I stop at that spot. I do not see the ball. In fact, if I'm working with somebody and you're starting 6 or 8 feet out, something like that, I'll have them look at the hole like Spieth. If they've missed maybe 5 in a row, I said, you get yourself set up, look at the hole. Okay, now keep looking, go on ahead and hit it. I'm going to say at least 70% of the time they'll make it. And if they're one of the ones that make it, I said, okay, we'll try it another way. Put the ball down again, okay? You look out there at the hole, get all set. Now this time you come back to that 1 inch. And I want you to see the ball roll over the spot, because what my dad taught me that was brilliant is the fact that I'm putting the back of my left hand, the logo on my glove, whatever. That's going to the hole, and this thing stays vertical. It is not any part of hitting a shot. This thing is an extension. If you got a long putter, you're going through here. You're not going like this. I mean, this is just the back of my left hand. If that back of the left hand's going where I want it to go, the putter's following it. But I set up here. I was messing around a little bit. This is for those of you that put a line on the ball, and you're pros, so you're not going to do it wrong, but the people you're teaching sure as hell are. You can be sitting right over there. You see how far this is aiming left? And you tell me somebody's going to sit up and put their mark over there? I don't think so. And even with all that wind coming against it, that's where this thing has to be set up. Which if I stood, and that's what you can do when you teach, get people to realize right there is where I'm aiming. Right there. And depending how I hit it, I mean, with this wind, the thing stay on this plastic is a little bit difficult. But that's how far out I have to be, and I'm doing it with my eyes. I'm not going, okay, cup and a half, whatever. I'm sitting here, setting it out far enough. That was the best one I made since the first one I made. Let me ask you a question. How many of you putt worse on putts that break to the right? Okay, and I'm going to turn over to Ronnie in here in a second because he can cover this. If you have a straight putt or a putt that breaks to the left, if you are right-handed, it's probably going to be an easier putt for you. And that's why when we're trying to find a right-to-left breaking putt. This is like graduate school. The reason why, if I put this ball, and you guys can do it over there too, so those people can see what I'm doing. But basically, what I have here is not in the middle of my stance, so my weight is not neutral. My weight would be about 55-45 onto my left side. And if this putt breaks to the right, the one we don't necessarily like, I'm 60-40. Yet the average person that you're going to teach, their weight's back on their right heel, and a lot of times they're neutral, which means since the weight's here, the putter can't help but come up. And it's going to go to the right, generally. Questions on that at all? Yes. Whoops, you got your hands halfway up. Pardon? Yeah. Right? No. All I look at like, what is your angle of your eye when you're throwing a dart at a dartboard? Okay, so, well, that's a good question, but basically, I'm looking at the hole. It's below me usually, and I'd be looking here, and I'm here. I'm not going from here like that and then turning around. I'm just looking, and that's why I stay on that line, and that's why I go back and forth, and going out, I don't. Obviously, I come here because I want to see. You don't read a book tilted away from you. You teach it tilted towards you. So that's why I go to the low side so I can see what it's going to do. Okay, but you don't worry about, if you can see an inch, that's all you got to see.
Yeah, but when he's looking down the line, out and down the line, or even when he's over the putt, he is seeing it with both his eyes. It's not
Yeah,
It's not like
one
he's
eye.
it's not like he's doing this and the right is not getting a full view. Right, and at the same time, when you think about it in this process, you look at it from behind it. That's usually where everybody starts. You're here, okay? Feels like it goes left, so we head left. We get about middle of the way, and Dad's talking about his 3 quadrants that he's picturing here. Now this looks slightly uphill, so I don't need to go over there because that would
Do one left.
I don't need to go to the high side looking back at this. But
Do left hand there.
when I come back here, I've got the data my left brain needs to sit there and see where I feel like I need this to start. So then I'm going to actually be standing right where I want to see this thing start, and maybe I do the practice stroke where I'm feeling like if I give it this much on that line, it goes right in the hole. At that point, the line's over because I'm not reading it for line anymore. I'm walking in with it, and he's looking out at it. It's not for line. It's all pace. So, because you could have the right line, but if you don't roll this with the right pace, it's not going to go in. So maybe that's the reason why it doesn't look like an exaggerated, like, okay, I got to dead square on, because he's not reading it for line. That all happened before. The moment he's walking in, it's all pace at that point. So he just needs to get a feel for the distance, and then he's coming back and he's responding to what he just saw. But it has nothing to do with line because everything else was already set, and you're just responding. Does that answer it for you?
Other questions?
It's okay to have a follow-up. Well, I think that's what you'll get from practicing that way is you start to realize I can trust my eyes and that you don't have to try to look at it. You can let it come to you. And if you're not seeing it, then maybe you look a little longer, or maybe you end up changing how your head moves so that you do see it more accurately. But to say that there's a set position that you have to be in, that probably would not work for everybody's different. You gotta meet everybody where they're at. Right? Yeah, there was a question earlier. Right. Absolutely. So, right. So, the line. Again, the line is fine if it's
used correctly.
If it's used correctly, but like I said, for the most part, it's like 5 feet in, 6 feet in. I don't care if a tour player of mine uses the line. It's just because, again, you're walking in with confidence, and if you get the ball started where you want from that distance, it's pretty much going in. So I get that. But the reason why we tend to kind of stay away from it is a lot of people don't realize how good they can actually be without it. And it can be a handicap. And ultimately it ends up, if you use the line, and in your case, someone's visually got something askew, honestly, doing the drill where they're getting set up, looking at the hole, and then not coming back, just having set the putter down, looking out, getting comfortable, and when they feel like they're ready, go ahead and make the stroke. You'll be as shocked at how quickly the brain actually makes that connection. It's like, okay, I just felt that. First one's offline. It's just like watching somebody sight in a rifle. At first, that first few, 2 or 3, won't be right, especially if they've got a condition like you were talking about.
And that
they did a study. Just real quick. They did a study with basketball players. They took the world's greatest free throw shooters at the time statistically, and this was 15 years ago. They put optics on them that shifted the basket a foot left, and they had them go through at first they're all missing, but within 5 shots, all of them were making their baskets again. Take the glasses off, and they're ready to sue them because now everything was missing on the opposite side. But again, within 3 shots, they're right back to making baskets. Optically, we can adapt. It's just you're through your practice session, you adapt really quickly.
And I'm sure a lot of you, and we'll get to your question in just a second. One of the things you use an alignment stick and just take your Sharpie and get about a 6-foot line, get a dead straight putt, and let them figure out that's straight. And then it's just a matter, because we get on the golf course, now we have big breaks. These type of things show them how much break it actually goes, because the average person will be underplaying the break every single time. You had a question?
Yeah, guys, first of all, your strokes are really clear, all of you. It's fun to watch you roll the ball the way that you do. What we're seeing on TV and what we see on the road a lot is everybody's putting with face balance. And Junior, you and Pop have a toe-hanging putter, and you have something that we're going to see. Have you seen any difference, especially Junior or Dave, in toe-hanging putters that changed out, and have you tried face balance?
I do not like face balance. I've never had. All my putters, my Scotty Cameron, my Ray Cooks, I mean, every one of them is toe hang. This has got almost 5 degrees loft on it, because I believe that this has got to go to the hole. And yet, I mean, I can remember going to Peninsula Club for the George Archer Memorial up there doing a putting clinic, and I just had rotator cuff surgery, so I didn't take my clubs. I figured they got to have a putter I can use. Peninsula Club's a good club. It's got to have, right? They didn't have a single putter that had more than a 1 degree of loft, which instantly makes me put my hands back. Now I can't do anything I want to do. You know, it's just, it's a matter, a face balanced putter helps a lot of people. But, I mean, I've always used this type, and it helps me close it up, because the last thing I want to do is see a ball miss to the right.
Yeah, not sounding sarcastic. You putted great for 6 decades.
No, I'm not.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously putters have advanced, and I get asked all the time, what should I use, face bounce or toe hang? And it's really, you want to use what you like looking down at. I grew up with an Answer 2 style putter, and TaylorMade made one of these. The big difference now, the biggest change in putters is the grooves on the putter face, because we've seen it in a high-speed camera work where the ball literally gets absorbed into the putter face and it starts rolling sooner. So the sooner your ball is rolling without skidding, the better your speed, the better your line. And so the grooves help do that. I could use a face balance putter if I wanted to. I just never have. But the reason, what we do is we'll keep the face will stay square throughout the entire stroke, but what we do to do that is our left index finger is what my dad calls the trigger. That's what starts the stroke back. Most people will take the putter back, they'll say both hands, but a lot of times it'll be the right hand, and if the right hand takes it back a little, that toe's opening. Then it becomes a timing issue to square it up at impact. So face balance putters may help keep that putter square longer for them. For us, we feel the left index finger pushes the putter back. That face looks like the heel's leading the toe, it's just square. And then from there, that hinge, we hold that angle right through. So our face is square throughout the stroke. It's not straight back, straight through. But who's going to be more consistent, the person whose face is square throughout the stroke or the one that's opening and closing?
You know, I'm going to jump right in because I would have forgotten about this. There's, obviously 60 years of being out there on tour and being a PGA pro. I've learned a lot and forgot a lot. Probably forgot a lot more than I learned. But in the late 90s, they came out and they had the cameras that they could figure out how fast your ball would stop skidding because it's going to bounce, then it'll roll, right? And they came out on the PGA Tour that summer, and Lauren Roberts was the best at a minus 77, meaning his ball went about that far, and the sucker was on the ground to stay. Sergio was plus 10, just for future reference. Tour average was 0. They came out on the Champions Tour, and I was the best on the Champions Tour to minus 140. Nobody else did 100. That bet my ball's going less than an inch. Okay? If I have no loft, I've got to, and this again, this gets back to how you have to picture who you're teaching. Zach Johnson, one of our best putters, and he uses a Seymour putter with no loft, negative loft almost. So his hands have to be back here, and he can putt like a genius. But if you're teaching somebody, that's hard to teach them, right? So I thought that was really cool, and I'm not into Ronnie, and Ronnie especially is into all this knowing, and he'll follow me up here. But basically TaylorMade called me and they had something for me to see. Well, I went down in late November, and what they had was they had the new model for the Spider putter that was coming out that had the first groove faces. Okay, the red insert. And I had seen Rife and I'd seen Yes. They were the only two manufacturers that had grooves. And I thought it was BS. I mean, we all just had a clean face, right? I rolled 3 balls. I would have given anything to have a picture of this. These guys had coats, like robes on, right?
Lab coats, Dad.
Huh? Lab coats, yeah. But I mean, this is serious stuff.
They're not in a spa.
No, but they were having fun. I rolled 3 balls. 201, 166, and 202 were my 3 balls. I mean, they stood there and they couldn't believe what they just saw. And I felt no difference, obviously, between 166 and 202. I mean, nothing. But the advantage to be able to roll a ball is so great. I'm going, this is unbelievable. And I went to Byron Nelson, actually, that year to debut the Spider putter on tour. And Sergio has just managed a 3-putt and lose New Orleans. So here I'd gone from 140 to 200, so I gained 60. Sergio comes in after losing, and I'm gone. I'm back to California. He comes in. He was plus 10, right? Picks up a putter. Didn't even have loft necessarily, a whole bunch of loft like I have. He rolled it minus 50. I gained 60. He gained 60. That told me what the value of having groove faces do. So now Scotty Cameron doesn't have groove faces, but he puts a hell of a lot more milling on the ball than he used to. Ping has groove faces now, but that leads right into what you got to talk to him about, okay?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like, does everybody know what part of the ball they're supposed to contact? What was it? Above the center line? Would everybody kind of agree with that? See a raise of hands. How many people think that above the center line would be an ideal place to hit that ball? Not a lot of hands. Everybody play pool? Raise your hands if you play pool. If we want the ball to roll quickly, overspin, where do you want to make contact with the cue ball? Top half. Interesting. So how do we know what part of the ball we're actually making contact with? Well, up until just recently, it would have been really difficult in anything other than just a lab with a high-speed camera to figure out what part of the ball you're actually contacting. In fact, there was a lot of mysteries when it came to putting. How many of you guys and gals have ever had your clients come to you with more than one putter? All the time. I don't know which one works best, right? Well, we've been partnering with Encore with a new ball, and it's going to be, we're going to debut it at the PGA show this coming year. And I haven't been as a chaser of knowledge as I've always been. Hasn't always made me the best player, but I have never been totally satisfied with real world conditions, being able to see what the ball's doing in regards to putting, whether you use a quad max or anything that's trying to get numbers as a ball's rolling on the turf in real conditions. Lab, that's one thing, and even then, the accuracy has not been great. But we've managed to squeeze a computer down to the size of a marble and get it to fit inside a regulation weight, regulation size golf ball. And we don't have to worry about any exterior device interpreting what the ball's doing anymore. It's going to actually tell you what part of the ball you hit, how fast you, how well you minimized the skid, whether you came up on it, whether you came down on it. And if they just showed up with 3 putters, within 3 putts, you're going to be able to tell them which one's rolling the ball best, which one they tend to roll more on line. And in fact, the ball will actually tell you with 2 putts, putting in 180 degrees different direction with 2 putts, it'll tell you the green speed you're putting on. So I'm pretty excited about that technology because it's going to answer a lot of questions for a lot of the clients that come to us for help. Because most people, it's really difficult to bridge proper mechanics and feel. And now we're gonna have access to a golf ball that's gonna actually be able to let your mind be free to visualize, do everything we're asking you to do, and you're gonna actually be able to see your numbers and teach yourself how to make better contact with this ball. And you'll be able to do it with the equipment they brought. If it's got 1 degree of loft, you're gonna figure out they can't put their hands that far forward. If it's got 4 degrees, then you're gonna find that optimal position for whatever equipment they're using. Or if you're trying to push a club that you know to be true, that'd be really helpful, you get to showcase right off the bat whether they're rolling putts with better pace control, better line control, all that's gonna be available to us outside in real world conditions. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's gonna be called the Genius Golf Ball. And it's, I would definitely keep an eye on it. Made by Encore Innovations. But I'm super excited about that because most people, and that includes all of us, don't know how to make decent contact with a golf ball. And until now, we have not had a way outside in the sun on real grass, have not had an adequate way to get better at doing it. I grew up watching The Ultimate Stroke, and Dad wasn't, I mean, just like any, I guess, typical athletic or Olympic athlete level person, and you ask them, how do you do it? Just by the nature of asking somebody who's that athletic in the moment, they're honestly, the short answer is they don't know, they just do it. That doesn't help us get there. It's like, but I feel like we're getting the tools now that actually can get our ability to actually translate that to our players. And I think that's pretty exciting. Any questions that we have? You got one over here.
So if you're supposed to hit above the equator, what part of the putter is hitting that? Because it seems like there's a variance on the tour.
Right. Well, one thing you want to make sure it teaches you is that the putter's got to bottom out somewhere behind the ball before it makes contact. And you've got to have, you're going to end up with,
Wish the ducks were flying.
you're going to end up with something 0.3, 0.5, depends on the condition of the greens too, which is again, something you're going to learn real quick is this ball will be able to tell you what, just like if you're putting from off the fringe, you allow a little more loft on the putter to get it out of the depression and get it rolling on top of the grass. That would provide your best roll. Masters tight greens, suddenly now you need 0.1 degrees. But you'll be able to hone your skill based on that.
That didn't work.
Yeah, we were planning on hurricane.
That didn't work.
Did I answer your question for you? Yeah. Yeah, you want to be catching it on the upswing with minimal loft basically left on the putter. The proper stroke, obviously, with the forward press, that allows the handle to lead the way, and it provides the proper turnover for the ball. Now, it's close to that center line. You want to feel like you're getting it just above the center line. But if you actually get somebody, because most people, what you'll find is, and that's what's kind of exciting working with the prototypes of this ball, it is really not the typical way people make contact with the ball. Most people catch it below the sweet spot of the putter, hitting below the bottom of the center line because they're putting, just releasing up on it. And if you drag the grip through with the putter leading the way, it literally gets the ball turned over. And it get that gyroscopic effect where the ball really, even if it hits things, it does not want to come offline. So it'll help teach us how to get there, no matter what putter you have.
I mean, you talk about having the putter come up, but it was interesting because this is the one thing that I bit into because when my dad would teach me, he would literally, if I finished a stroke, again, the back of my left hand's going, I would put the putter right on the ground. I mean, the putter is just going to end up on the ground. In fact, well, this is what as a kid, he would touch my left hand and pull it out, and when I would putt it, I would literally be down lower. I mean, I know on the camera they're showing that I am coming up, but this is not what you want to be doing, because the average person does this. Go on ahead. They'll hit this part, if not their right hand. That's their idea of coming up. And yet in reality, I mean, God, the number of hours he would do this, and I just go through, I just bang it right here, and it just stays right on line.
Yeah, if you watch his stroke on a high-speed camera, most strokes you'll see a putter coming in, and then it looks like an airplane taking off after impact. Dad's putter looks like pretty much like a car driving by. It does catch the ball on an upstroke, but he is not helping to make that happen at all.
I'm doing it with the loft that's on my putter, and that's why I can forward press. It's just, but again, they with the spiders, they say, okay, you got all the weight in the back, you can, you don't have to keep it low. It's just, I have always been, shoot. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Good question. Huh? Well, Junior could probably answer that, but basically I went out on tour. I didn't know my stroke was any different till about the second tournament in Lafayette. The guy says, you putt a lot like Bobby Locke. I said, really? Because I had never seen anything, right? And he takes it around and looped it. When I started, that's what I did. I didn't know it was any different. I will give a 2-hour lesson. And a lot of times, if they're rolling it right, I don't care. Most good putters will take it slightly inside. And David, they mentioned something they caught me on, is that I would do this I'd be putting and I would go, and I'd never stop. I'd still stroke it. And they say, didn't you feel the putter catch? And I said, yeah. I'm not going to hit it with my backstroke anyway. Oh, boy.
No,
Junior's got the answers.
So
Oh, boy.
he'd get it stuck going back, but he'd keep going, and 9 times out of 10 he'd make it. And I started caddying when I was 12, and I'd go to my dad, and go, Dad, you got that putter stuck going back. And he'd say the same thing every time. Yeah, it just means I'm keeping it low. I want to keep it low. Can you imagine a guy, let's say Bryson DeChambeau, if he gets it stuck on the way back, it's going to take him 3 more minutes before he putts that ball.
Well, yeah. But that's still better than the guy that has to check out his line on the deal 14 times. Shit, I'd have been off the tour. I would have had back surgery if I had done that, And again, it's an attitude. I mean, I just look at it and I expect it to go in.
I think
That doesn't
too,
help you teaching, but all those little things that I told you about, if you get it right, there's no reason that the girls here can't outputt the guys. This has got nothing to do with strength. This is all about feel and roll, and it should be perfect. Now, let me ask you a question about a wedge. How many of you know what's your most lofted wedge? 60 degrees? How many are you going to say that? Okay, how many say 64? Okay, you're not Phil Mickelson. Okay, but that's okay. How many of you know what your wedge weighs? Okay, what does your wedge weigh?
swing weight.
Swing weight. D5. Anybody else knows where there is? Anybody? Okay, well mine's D2.5 on all my irons, but my sand wedge, just one club, weighs D6. Why? Because I'm getting out of thick grass, I'm getting out of sand, and I had Molinari, Stephen Gallagher, a Ryder Cup player out of Scotland. He was a Monday, Tuesday lesson, and 6'5". His were D4.5. His wedge was D4.5. Right now he uses D8.5. Molinari comes in, and his clubs were the same as mine, just under D3. His wedge was D3, and we had identical Nike wedges at that time. He couldn't get out of the trap very good. I handed him mine. It was the exact same head. No problem with mine. He uses D6.5 now, too. So it's kind of bizarre. I mean, this is the weight tend to make heavier than what I like. I like to feel it. David mentioned earlier about the grip. Okay, this is the thick grip The bigger grip has helped more people, okay, because they don't grab it as tight. They have the feel. They let the thing work. But it's still, if you help my putter, in fact, this is what I'll say, keep myself in trouble. You just pass that around. You guys can feel what they feel. You'll feel the weight in the grip. You'll feel the weight in the head, but it's going to be totally balanced. And there's a reason why your hand, it's flat, it's not round. All these things that have been developed, you know, the technology behind it is so much better than what it used to be.
I wanted to touch too on his question about the path of the stroke. It has a lot to do, you know, I'm sure everybody comes out. I've had plenty of tours come to me. I feel like I'm kind of cutting it. And an interesting thing that I made a connection with, because a lot of times we can point to what the problem is. It's like, oh yeah, you're definitely cutting your putts, or you're closing the face down, or you're definitely pushing everything. There's a definite connection between your foundation and what your weight's doing and what your stroke's doing. Your stroke will act a lot like a counterbalance. And so what I discovered was, working with some of these players on tour, is if their tendency was, when they get set up, if their tendency was to go towards the toes, they would tend to pull, or the path would be cutting. If they tended to lose their putts immediately to the right, they tended to fall towards their heels. So when they were making their stroke, and they'd fall back this way. So this really expensive Amazon $10 tool, we've got our pressure plates over there, which that's great for feedback on the axis of whether someone's not only going towards their toes or heels during their stroke, but whether they're actually shifting their weight back, or if they want to know really what 55, 45 feels like, or 60 on the left. It's super helpful, and I would highly recommend it.
Well, Ronnie got me into it like 5 years ago and showed me, because you tell people, when I come in and set my right foot, my knee is already bent. And I put the putter down, and I'm looking out, and the left is bent. And we used to tell them, now bend your knees. For some reason or other, people don't want to bend the knees. And that's one thing for the girls out here. You don't want to set in. You've seen it. The ones that want to, oh, yeah, I'm looking good. I got it in. Well, that's not athletic. You've got to set yourself up so you're not moving. As soon as Ronnie got me into this is one of the best teaching things I ever saw, because you get somebody standing on there, you make sure they get started with their putter in their hand.
You'll be shocked.
Because you'll fall right off.
You'll be shocked with somebody that's got maybe some path issues. When normally maybe we put do a T drill, trying to train that stroke, or have them on a mat, getting them to follow what you'd like to see the arc do. You put them on this, and they won't be able to stand on it. And if you're trying to train somebody to have a repeatable stroke and they can't hold their balance on this, then we got to start with this first. They've got to have a base for them to have a repeatable stroke. And of course, came back realizing I've made this connection that, a lot of path problems under pressure, they're moving all over the place. And I said, Dad, you won't believe this. Got to check this out. And this was, 15 years ago now?
Yeah.
Well, he stood on it like it was nothing, and then he holds 2 putts in a row, and he says, I don't get it. I said, that's because we're all trying to learn how to putt like you, Dad. Most people struggle with this. But I promise you, if you get simple half foam roller and get your clients to practice putting on it, it is a huge awareness tool. And one they won't forget, and they'll be happy you presented it to them. Because it'll give you the consistency, one, that gives you a base, and from that we can work, just like your dad taught us, you build every swing from the ground up. And this is a perfect place to start with a good stroke. Any other questions? Yeah.
You get that.
That's really it. It's not any more simple than a chalk line. You know, having your eyes get calibrated in outside in the sun. You know, finding it multiple ways. Actually, the first time you give somebody, even if you're telling them go to Home Depot, I did that with Lydia Coe. Actually, that was probably more time just so she and I could work without her mom being there. But I sent her mom to go to Home Depot to get a chalk line. But because there was a lot of things being said and I didn't understand Korean, so she told me she's making sure I don't forget anything that I've ever had from any lesson from the last 5 years. And I go, wow, okay. So I gave her a job to go get a chalk line. So if your clients go get a chalk line, and it's one, you're gonna teach them how to find the straight putt, which once you get good at figuring out where 6 o'clock is, where your straight putt is on an uphill putt, you're one step closer to getting them to read putts better out on the golf course. Because if they can't find straight out there, then they're probably not going to read it right in the first place. So just the act of doing that, that's your first step of getting them to read a putt correctly. But yeah, once you have that set, it sets the mind, it sets the brain, it gains confidence. And again, I know my dad touched on it lightly, but it is really important that you do not drill your clients on any repetitive motion or topic even, because the mind doesn't know a difference between thinking about something and actually trying to physically do it for more than 10 or 15 minutes before you move on to something else. I can't stress how important that is when we do corporate stuff together.
Right, well,
we're
like,
given a year's worth of lessons, and we're telling them, you guys are all going to go out there and play today. Don't do everything we just talked about. Just pick your favorite thing and just go do that for the day, because it'll take how many days to make a habit done?
21. I
So-
thought my dad was a miserable person because I'd come back from Southern Cal. I'd come home on the weekends. I didn't want to stay in L.A. necessarily, and I'd come back. And if I had something, he'd look at me and he'd say, well, your grip's too strong or it's too weak or something. And I'd go out and work on it. 30 minutes later, I'm in there, okay, now I got that. What's next? He wouldn't tell me anything for 2 weeks. I'd come back, no, just go have fun, hit ball. Well, Dad, I'm here, you know. It was never over teaching because it takes a while to get the feel for it. I've got one question for you. If I have let me have a ball here, Junior. My putter's sailing around, I won't use it. If I had a pretty straight putt, which this is, okay? So if it was dead straight, so I'd put it in the middle. All right. I could make it with yours. It's all right.
You can make it with a spoon.
Okay, so now, what if I told you on this putt right here? Okay, it's basically a straight putt. I don't aim at that white tee. Question is, do I aim to the right of it or to the left of it? How many people think right? How many think correctly left? Good. Okay. Some got it right. So now let me explain to you what I'm doing, because 99% of the people you work are going to release the putter, and as you're teaching them. Okay. If I aim at that white tee, I got 1.5 inches to pull it or push it. And my dad, a lot of times, would have me practice either hooking it in to the right, fading in to the left. Talk about not using a stroke you're ever going to use, but he'd have me do that. Yet the point being, I want my left hand to work. So I aim every single one. I'm slightly left of where you'd expect. My last, I'm not set up. I'm slightly open. But then, since I know that in other words, I'm going to make this go straight. Aim red. Now my next look, I look at the white. In the back of the tee, I go right at the white. And I'm going to make it do what I want rather than, oh man, this is especially here. Easy one, you hope they give it to you. Okay? It's a hell of a lot easier if it's like hitting a draw or a fade, but hitting a shot rather than assuming you're going to aim straight ahead. And all of a sudden, if you're aiming straight, it's going to go left or right a lot of the times. and you're not
And
going to
that
be too
setup
close.
allows your left hand to just lead the way.
Yeah, my left hand is it's gonna go to the hole. This club is gonna stay vertical. It's not gonna do, well, under pressure it might do that, I miss it right, or stop it and it goes dead left. I'm not letting him do that. I'm just making this thing like David held that thing on my back of my hand, but I have aimed slightly, ever so slightly left of my target, and then I go dead straight at it, rather than having a chance to miss two ways. Other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes. I never see the ball. I mean, I come in, let's say the spot's right in front of that, I would come in because my putter covers it up. So when I come in, okay, I look out here. Now I come over and I get the putter down the ball without hitting it. And this time I see I got to hit it just over the right edge of it, and I just roll it there. And it's just, that's what I've always done, you know. And the key is just the fact you're putting at 1 inch. And that's why the one fellow I was asking, when he walked, he paced it up there, there's a massive difference. Now, and when you're teaching, we might as well tell you the one last thing. Is there a hole down there? Over there behind you? I'll go to this one over here. When we teach people to putt long putts, generally what's going to happen is that they're going to not take a long enough backstroke. Because if I take a short backstroke, and I take it about to here, which seems long for a lot of people, and I don't hit it, I'm not going to get it there. It's not going to get there. On the other hand, if I take one farther, long backswing, because I don't want to hit this, I want to roll it. So now it lets me get the speed and the feel that I want to get the distance that I want. But the tendency when you teach, you're going to make sure they take it back far enough. It's like if you have a wedge, you can hit 100 yards, you have a 75-yard shot, I'm not taking the sucker 3/4 back. I'm taking it about 90%, because then I can use whatever draw or fade or whatever I'm trying to do to it. So on the long putts, I might be slightly taller, come into it, okay? Let that thing go back and then just smoothly go through, because it's going to let you get the speed that you want.
And that's the other thing. He's talking about something he's done his whole life, right? Which is roll the ball better really than anybody. And to see what he knew himself, to see this actually demonstrated like in this upcoming technology, it was obviously we don't want to ever decel, right? We all know that's the kiss of death. But there's the opposite side of it is we also don't want to have the putter truly accelerating hard into the ball, because what you're going to find is the roll numbers aren't that great either. We want this modest gain, but statistically watching this putter go through the ball, it's not really accelerating. It's up to the speed it needs to by the time it makes contact with the ball. Now, accelerated to get there, and it's not decelerating, but it's not this aggressive pop. Like if your stroke was too short and you're accelerating through the ball, again, if you're going to pick one, you're going to pick that before the decel. But if you want to learn how to roll the ball correctly, more accurately, with better pace control, the stroke does need to be a length that allows the putter to be up to the speed you need it by the time it's making contact with that ball.
Couple questions. Take a couple more and that'll be it. Anything at all? Yes, sir. Couple of inches inside my left foot, somewhere about right here. Forward of center, but not too far forward, because then the stroke is gonna, even mine will come up. I'd rather, my feeling is I want to see how long I can keep the putter on the face of the ball on the face of the putter. I do not like it to come shooting off like back in the day when you play 3 or 4 balls and we all had a top flight. That was my favorite top flight. I could hit my 3-iron 190 yards, and I could hit this sucker 235. Had it 4 years. Finally lost it, and I couldn't believe my caddy. Just because there was an alligator nearby, he was not going in to get my ball, and I could clearly see it. Any other? One last question. Right here. Yes, where? Yes. Yeah. I don't really think about it. Ronnie
Yeah.
thinks more than I do. I mean, if I was left hand low, I'd be much more stable and flat. But I've never done that. It's just it's when we putt left-handed and we teach people. There's not a tournament I played that I didn't hit 3 or 4 left-handed putts. And if you're teaching somebody the first time, I just put their hand on top of their shoulder and have them keep it here.
I'm actually kind of glad you brought that up. That was my last lesson with Dad.
Yeah.
And of course, I got all the video footage of it throughout the years. And I said, you know, Dad, you're not 50 anymore.
No, I know that.
So I was looking at old footage, and sure enough, you know, watching, and it was I've made this highlight reel, all the tournaments showing him basically making putts at all the tournaments he ever won.
Stick that to your pocket.
And I was watching him making his putting strokes, trying to find if there's anything different now than what I used to see him do back then. And it was actually pretty glaring. And he'd gotten to the point where his shoulders really weren't doing anything. And yet when he would work on his left hand only, you know, he would have his hand here and he was making putts. And I was like, that's interesting that you look at the old footage and he had much more fluid motion, freedom with his shoulders participating in that stroke. He wasn't aware of it, so as again, you ask athletes what they're doing, he's not always aware physically what he's doing. He's just picturing it, letting it go. I said, if we could get a little more freedom, and then I asked him, I said, can you putt a few? I'm going to videotape you. Putt a few when you're looking at the hole. And he's looking at the hole, and he makes his putt, and I go, interesting. So his body athletically literally knew what it needed to do, and it did the correct thing. Everything was in motion. And then when he came back to looking in front of the ball, he gave me this, where this wasn't free to move. So we worked, that was our session. We literally worked on feeling like his shoulders were free to participate in the stroke, and suddenly now the balls were all starting on the line he was looking at. So, but it was a great question. But historically, I mean, growing up as a kid, Dave, what are your shoulders doing? I have no idea. You know, of course, they're all like, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't have to worry about it. But it was a great question because for him, we needed to take a look at it because he kind of lost that part of his stroke.
Randy, we'll turn it over to you. Thank you for having us. You got it.
Another round of applause, please. Another special family with unbelievable knowledge. Thank you.